Hi, I'm Tom, and this is AC on the Short Alpha Clash podcast, where I talk all things Alpha Clash on my way to work. And today I want to talk to you about the upcoming board game, Cosmic Conquest. So let's dig in. So Cosmic Conquest, as I said, is upcoming, so you can't go into stores and buy it. It's going on Kickstarter. I'm guessing sometime late February, so later this month, and you can go and support it there. So the board game itself is an Ameritrash style game. The game plays. The box says from I think 2 to 4 players. Personally, I think 4 is the right amount. 2 is I'm having a hard time imagining it really being good with 2, but 4, maybe 3. And the way that works is you set up a board with 9 planets, which you shuffle and set out. Think like you set out the board for Catan, and then you move your team of characters, which you draft. Then you move your team of characters around the planets, trying to combat your opponents and conquer planets in an effort to gather enough victory points. They're called gambit points to win the game. Now the game is played over 10 rounds in the basic setup and the base setup. It's played over 10 rounds. Or to the first player gets 20 gambit points, whatever comes first. Now, in a starting setup, I would go with a lot fewer rounds, just so you can reset, and sort of as a training wheel, to say. So, my thoughts about the game, I'm going to put last in this. If you don't know them, then stick around and you get to know my feelings about it. But I will talk a little bit about the game as such. So I'm a board gamer. Besides being into trading card games, I am very much into board games. I play something around 50, 70 every year. New games every year. So I'm while I'm not an expert, I do play board games a significant amount. So, and the styles vary. This style, the Ameritrash, is not the most common in what I play, although I don't shy away from them. There is for Cosmic Conquest specific, there is a sort of a curveball. The way the game works, how things tie together, the turn order, your abilities, and to what actions you can do, is fairly straightforward. It is not a hard game to grok or to understand. However, the complexity of the game comes from the multitude of setups you can have, and with that I mean there's a lot of variety in the mechanisms of the game. One is the board that's set up with these 9 planets that sort of make up the world you're traveling in. Your contender teams, which you again in the basic game you draft these, and you get a team of 3 different classes of characters or contenders. Each of these has special powers. And you can awaken them, meaning you flip over this the character board, the contender board, and you have more abilities. or you can unawaken them, unrival them. I don't know what that's called. And then you can. Then you have only a static ability, so you can sort of flip the character around, and that has different effects. That adds variety. The fact that there are 18, I think, 18 different contenders to choose from, that provides a certain amount of variety. So that changes from time to time. Also, when you conquer the planet, which is one of the actions you can do, or one of the actions you can take, when you conquer a planet, that will have an effect for you on either that planet or in general, so a static effect from that. And to top it all off, there's an armory deck, sort of a stack of action cards from which you can buy and use during your turn or during combat. So there's a lot of variety and a lot of interesting decision making when you are playing the game. Now the upside to that is that two games are never the same. Change one of your contenders and on each player, and their teams will function a little bit different, and they will have a little bit of an adjustment to the strategy. Also, the upside is that with the variety and with is there 6 ways or something to gain gambit points, you can sort of go one of many ways or combine ways to try to accrue the 20 gambit points. So there are loads of strategies. Now the downside to all of this is if your players are prone to analysis paralysis, once you get a bit into, well, first off, if your gaming group is a group where it's not a big issue if it's all, but one or two who needs to know all the rules before they can make a decision, before they can start playing, then all of these mechanisms, all of these features, the effects of not only the player's own contenders, but the contenders of the others, the effects of the planets, what is in the armory. That's sort of a market where you buy from, right? You need to read all of that, and all of the contenders come with 2 sides, so you need to read the opposite side and the effects there. So if you want to be able to meticulously lay a plan or strategy for how you are going to win, then you're in for that. Will make it a steep learning curve, or you're in for rounds with analysis paralysis. Now, if you're not prone to that, you just sort of want to have a go. I know at least one of my gaming groups is like that, where we're willing to throw ourselves at the game and then develop a strategy as we go along. Then that barrier is not going to be an issue at all. And you sort of get to learn fairly quickly what the planets does and what the contenders do. Now, there are 18 contenders, so that will take a while to get to know them all in their intricate details, but sort of get an idea of what they're doing. You sort of get that. The grouping in, I'm going to burn this. The contenders are in 3 different groups. There are saviors, sentinels, and destroyers, and you sort of get what they want to do from the names alone, right? So there is a style to them, and you fairly quickly sort of get what those styles are about. And then there's the characters themselves. Now, all of this means that whether this is a game for you sort of depends on the group you're playing with. Now, I want to make one thing more. So if you're a board gamer, then you know this. But if you're not that much of a board gamer, you don't know this. The box says that this will take, I think, 45 to 90 minutes. If you're playing 10 rounds, the first many goes, you're not going to be able to finish it in 90 minutes. That is why I suggested you start off with a lot fewer rounds, so you can actually get to the end of it and have a have a result. Choose a winner in some way. The winner is always the one with the most gambit points, or 20 gambit points, whoever gets that first. So having a lower count for rounds means that you're actually going to get through it. Play it a few times to learn, not as much the rules, because they are, as I said, fairly easy, but the mechanics that work. Oh, and speaking of mechanics, there is this combat setup where you roll your dice. So the attacker rolls the red dice and the defender rolls the blue dice, and you sort of assign damage to each other, just like in the trading card game. However, if you're not happy with your roll, you get a re-roll, and then you're sort of locked into that. When I played, we sort of had this idea that dice roll had a huge impact. That was the important part of combat. And it may be so in the very beginning of the game, but in fact, all the add-ons, the actions you can take, the contenders' state and abilities, and the weapons you can buy of the armory deck and attach to your contenders, those things, with the static effects of planets too, those have a much bigger effect than the dice roll, or at least they play at least as big an effect or a role in the combat as the dice roll. And when you sort of get that, that's when you start to want to do a little bit of analysis before you attack. And there is loads and loads of strategy to be had there, because you might not necessarily want to win, you just want to win enough to trigger an effect that gets you gambit points. So there's an interesting set of decisions. So you're never in a position where, when you are involved in combat or on your turn, your action phase is never really dull, because you're either setting up for combat or you're in a combat with a specific goal. That being said, that, as I mentioned, that can lead to analysis paralysis. And if you are prone to that, or your group is prone to that, that will be an issue. If they're not particularly prone to it, it would be less of an issue. What I found myself doing when playing it was that I used a lot of the other players' turns to sort of plan a little. Have a look at what I had in my hand and which planets have been fought over since my last go. Whether I could go for one or the other. Whether there was something in the armory I want to buy next or should save up to get. And while these plans can be totally ruined by the other players, as Ameritrashers go, or any good board game go, that setup meant that I was using a lot of the other players' turns to do some of these analysis. So when I went into combat, as I said, you went in with a specific goal, typically with a specific goal, and not necessarily to win, or winning. What winning meant was different from combat to combat. It could be that you actually want to eliminate the other players' contender. It could also be that you just want to get above a certain threshold of damage dealt, or just having the money, that the XP is the currency that comes from doing combat, because you want to do something on your next turn. So there are loads of ways to go about, strategies to lean into in this game. So in that way, it's complex, but for me, in a good way. It might run a little long because there's a lot of around. So we only played 3 or 4 rounds. I'm imagining that by round 8 there will be a lot of combat move conquest setup, where you're sort of just fighting and moving, and not much more else, because you're sort of racing to the finish line. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but I could sort of see the glimmer of that. So that might become an issue if you're having a long game. Now, as I mentioned, the game goes live on Kickstarter. I'm guessing in the end of February, at least February. That's where it's set at the moment, with no specific date. And at the very least, if you do nothing else, then go have a look at it. It had a run on GameFound, so a lot of information about the game can be found on GameFound. And I would start there, look at what they had for offer, and then go make a note on the Kickstarter to keep an eye on it. I will definitely be backing it. I'm really curious to see what sort of tiers that will be available. I hope they, to some extent, will look like the tiers from GameFound, because I thought they were really good. But I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and to see what add-ons there will be. From a lore perspective, things are a little bit challenged. We don't know much of the characters. The characters does come with a short description on each. I would love if some of these characters were covered in the comic books going forward. But let's see what comes up. Anything can happen. They should be a part of the upcoming block. So maybe we're super lucky and the board game comes out with a whole block of trading card games and comic books with the same characters. They look interesting. They're dragons, for crying out loud. So go have a look. I think it looks great, and I'm actually looking forward to bringing it to my board game group. So, yeah. Well, that was it for me. There were loads of other things we could talk about, but today it was the board game. And then I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.